What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Coach Black, your internet relationship and breakup coach. Today's topic: your ex is not prepared for how badly they will miss you after the breakup. The first fundamental law. Now, over my time coaching and talking to thousands of people about their relationship, the countless thousands of hours I've spent studying, because I'm totally obsessed with the subject of human nature, attraction, relationship dynamics, attachment styles, I've put together a list of 7 irrefutable laws when it comes to breakups, all right? These are closely related to human nature, just the things we tend to do and we tend to react to that apply to relationships and breakups. The way I see these laws is, almost like gravity, for example. It's just a fundamental law of nature, and you can choose to ignore gravity if you want, but as you know, the consequences can be dire. All right, it would be silly to jump off a building and assume that you wouldn't pay an extreme price for doing so. All right, so over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be releasing 7 videos. This is going to be the first that go over the 7 fundamental laws of breakups, and hopefully you find them helpful and you can apply it to your situation. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. So yesterday, I was watching a TV show on HBO Max, and it was called Y2K, like something about Y2K that documents what things were like leading into our entrance into the new millennia. Now, I'm not sure how old you are, but if you were alive at that time and old enough to watch TV, you know Y2K was a big deal. And watching this show, even as soon as you start, right, it cuts into a bunch of people, Americans. They seem to be out in the wilderness somewhere. They're making bows and arrows. They're doing target practice and things like that. And it just brings back to my mind how serious things were at that point. A lot of people assumed that the world was going to come to an end. Things that we experience now on a day-to-day basis, and technology and computers and YouTube, all of these things didn't really exist back then. People thought we were going to go back to the Stone Age, and people were going to be fighting to survive, and there was going to be, a lot of chaos. And what was interesting is, obviously, as a viewer watching this now, it looks preposterous. But for those people in that moment that were preparing for the world to end, for everything to be completely destroyed, no more running water, food, electricity, it was a very real thing to them. There's countless stories of people who sold everything and did so many drastic things just to ensure that they will be able to survive past, the new year. And the reason that's so important, and I want to stress that, and it applies to the first fundamental law, is that as human beings, we have a tendency to not only exaggerate, but to focus on the negative. And it's called the negativity bias. And if you do an exercise right now, if you go on Google and you search breaking news or news stories for today, you'll notice that most of the titles are negative, because we have a proclivity as human beings to focus and magnify things that are negative. And if you understand the science of human nature, it makes total sense. Because if something is positive, like if someone gives you a compliment or you get a raise at work, it's a good thing, but you're not going to focus on it because it tells you the status quo is fine. And in actuality, things are progressing forward and things are going to continue to be perfect or even better than they were previously. But when something is negative, All right. When something is bad or there's chaos on the horizon, our mind as human beings focuses on those things because we want to bring about feelings of safety. We want to make sure that we as human beings and our offsprings, our families, our loved ones are going to be protected. And a lot of times it doesn't matter if these fears or these negative things that we're seeing or hearing about, it doesn't matter if they're real or not. All right, as long as they register in your consciousness, you will be hyper focused on those things. I want you to think about a time in your life where maybe you had a bad date, you had a bad job interview. I know I've certainly had some of those growing up. And even till today, one of my most memorable job interviews was one I had when I was like 17 or 18 years old. And it was horrible. I was just not emotionally mature to answer the questions the way that they were looking for. I was just, focused on my studies and so on and so forth. I just was not at that level of growth, right? I was very emotionally immature at that age. But the point is, anytime I think about work, career, job interviews, that's one of the first one that comes to my mind just because of how terrible it was, right? And so as human beings, like I said, we have a capacity to focus on the negative in such an extreme way. Now, why is this the first fundamental law? Because the same thing applies to your ex, okay? You do not realize how much of a shock no contact can be for your ex. Because most times when they make that decision, and I've shared this before, they're making it from a position of power. They have already weighed out their options, and sometimes your ex will be thinking, whether consciously or subconsciously, the grass is greener, I can find better, I can do better, okay? But because they are the ones giving you up, because they're the ones walking away from the relationship, not only do they feel they have the power, right? They still feel like they have access to the relationship if they really wanted it. All right? It's a complete difference when you give something up versus when you lose it. All right. And the only thing that can cultivate and create that feeling of loss in your ex is when they actually feel more certain that they can't get you back if they wanted to. All right. Or they feel like you are not going to fix the relationship. You are not going to chase them. You're not going to communicate with them. You're willing to allow the relationship to end forever. I know that sounds drastic, but for a lot of people, your ex will never truly feel that sense of loss until you get to that place. Because your vibe and your demeanor is totally different. All right? As human beings, we have a capacity to attune with people. We can feel their emotions a lot of times before they say it. And so some people do no contact from a place of fear. And if that's you today, I understand it. It might take you a little bit of time to get to the other side where you're more confident, all right, where you know your worth again. And you're really willing to stand up for yourself. And if that means losing the relationship, deep down, you're like, so be it. There's a different kind of swagger that you walk with. There's a different tone in your voice. And once your ex starts to feel those things, now it's no longer that they gave the relationship away. It's almost like someone came as a thief in the night and stole the relationship from them and took it away. And once they start to feel those feelings, all right, that negativity bias is going to kick into hyperdrive. The other way to look at it is called, I think it's called the loss aversion principle. All right. As human beings, we are twice as reactive to loss than we are to gain. When we gain a new job, gain a new career, make more money, it's a good thing. We feel great about it, but we are more emotionally reactive to when we lose something. If you get fired from a job unexpectedly, if a loved one passes away unexpectedly, or you got broken up with. And I'm sure you can resonate with that feeling, especially if you didn't see it coming. But the same thing happens to your ex on the back end, because even though they're the ones that did the dumping, they did so from a place of power with this false sense of certainty that they still have the relationship even though they gave it up. All right. And so you have to use this law to your advantage. Spend the time distancing yourself. Spend the time being in no contact, focused on your personal growth, your job, your friendships, your career. Put all of your energy into never reaching out. And whatever feelings or fear and anxiety that you might be feeling, take that out somewhere else with a hobby. You need to give your ex silence. You need to give them the breakup. And when they do start to test you, and I've had several videos about this, that vibe, that confidence needs to come off like, I truthfully am okay with us never being together again. And that's what a lot of people will call indifference, meaning you don't sound angry, because anger is really coming from a place of fear. It's a place of strong emotions. If you think about the people in your life that can get you angry, like genuinely upset, it's usually people that you care about or people that you have strong emotions towards, right? Positive or negative. So being angry is not a great vibe to have when you talk to your ex, because it shows you're still attached. You're still emotionally attached. And then being overly positive and friendly and self-deprecating and desperate and trying to force things, again, will never give off that vibe of I am walking away forever. And you have to mean it. No matter how much it hurts, it will hurt you 10 times more to stick around and continue to get disrespected. And once you can communicate that vibe and your ex can actually feel that, then they go into that place of loss and they start to feel the pain because of that negativity bias and the loss aversion principle. It hurts them twice as much, because losing that energy, losing that source of certainty is way more hurtful than your ex is ever prepared for. Okay? They assume things were going to stay the same way forever, but if you do this the right way, I'm telling you, there's no worse feeling, even for the dumper, because I've talked to so many people who were dumpers that had a change of heart. There's no worse feeling. Anyway, that's the first fundamental law, okay? The negativity bias. If you have any thoughts, comments, go ahead and drop it down in the comment section below. If you want to share your story about Y2K, I thought that documentary was pretty interesting. It was pretty funny. To look at now in hindsight, all right? Drop your comments about that as well. If you want to talk to me one-on-one about your situation, click the first link in the description and we can talk about it. I look forward to supporting you with your breakup and relationship questions. And if you haven't already, do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.